The homeless man I married to spite my parents just killed 3 armed men with a soup spoon. And he did it without spilling his coffee. My name is Emma Chin, and I've made some questionable life choices. But marrying a homeless man I met outside a 7-Eleven? That was supposed to be my worst one. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It started 6 months ago. I was 26, fresh out of a brutal breakup with my parents' golden boy pick, Trevor, a hedge fund manager with perfect teeth and the personality of wet cardboard. My parents were livid when I ended it. "Emma, you're throwing away your future," my mother shrieked over our last family dinner. "Trevor's family owns half of downtown," my father added, as if I was a chess piece in their social climbing game. I was tired. Tired of being controlled, tired of being perfect Emma who always did what she was told. So when they issued an ultimatum, "Marry Trevor or you're cut off," I did something insane. I said yes to the first man I saw. He was sitting outside the 7-Eleven on 5th Street, drenched from the rain, with a cardboard sign that read, "Need help. Anything appreciated." But here's what made me stop. He was reading. Not scrolling on a phone. Reading. An actual, water-damaged copy of The Count of Monte Cristo. "Interesting choice," I said, holding my umbrella over him. He looked up and I swear, time stopped. He had these piercing gray eyes, the kind that saw through you, and a jawline that could cut glass. Underneath the dirt and worn clothes, he was beautiful. "It's about revenge and redemption," he said with this slight accent I couldn't place. "Italian? Spanish?" "I relate to the revenge part." I laughed. "Rough day. Rough life." He smiled and it transformed his entire face. "I'm Marco. Emma." I made a decision in that moment. A stupid, reckless, absolutely perfect decision. "Marco, this is going to sound insane, but will you marry me?" He didn't even blink. "When?" "Tomorrow. I need a husband to prove a point to my family. I'll give you $10,000, a place to stay for a month, and then we'll quietly divorce. Deal?" Marco studied me for a long moment, then extended his hand. "Deal, Imogen. But I have one condition." "What?" "I get to cook you one meal. A real Italian dinner. Before we divorce." It was such an odd request that I agreed immediately. We got married at City Hall the next day. My parents didn't show up, no surprise there. But Marco did, wearing a suit he claimed he borrowed from a friend. He cleaned up impossibly well, and when he said, "I do," he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. It was supposed to be fake. Temporary. A business arrangement. But then Marco moved into my apartment, and everything changed. He was perfect. Too perfect. He woke up before me every morning and made espresso that could make angels weep. He folded my laundry with military precision. He fixed my broken cabinet, reprogrammed my Wi-Fi router, and somehow trained my hostile cat, Chairman Meow, to actually like him. "Where did you learn to do all this?" I asked one morning, watching him make fresh pasta from scratch. "Here and there," he said mysteriously. "You pick up skills when you're on the streets." But there were oddities. Small things that didn't add up. Like the way he moved, with a predator's grace, always aware of every exit. Or how he could guess people's intentions before they spoke. Or the fact that he somehow spoke 5 languages fluently. "For a homeless guy, you're very cultured," I said one night over his incredible homemade risotto. Marco's eyes darkened. "I wasn't always homeless, Emma. I had a life before. A complicated one." "Want to talk about it?" "Not yet." He reached across the table and took my hand. His touch sent electricity up my arm. "But I will. When it's time." I was falling for him. But it happened in small moments. The way he left post-it notes with terrible jokes on my bathroom mirror. How he held doors for elderly people and helped my neighbor carry groceries. The night he held me while I cried about my family's rejection, whispering in Italian that I was più preziosa dell'oro, more precious than gold. One evening, 2 months into our arrangement, Marco cooked the promised Italian dinner. The table was covered in candles, and he'd somehow obtained fresh flowers. "This is the meal," he said softly. "The one from our deal." My heart sank. The month had long passed. This was goodbye. We ate in charged silence, pasta alle vongole, saltimbocca, tiramisu that tasted like heaven. Every bite felt like a farewell. Marco, I whispered, tears threatening. I don't want a divorce. He looked up, those gray eyes blazing with emotion. Emma. That's when my apartment door exploded inward. 5 men in black suits stormed in, guns drawn. But they weren't pointing them at us. They were bowing. Capo, the lead man said in Italian. We've been searching for you for 6 months. The families are in chaos. The Russos are making moves. We need you. Marco, my homeless, sweet, pasta-making husband, stood slowly. The air around him changed. He was no longer the gentle man who fed my cat and made terrible puns. He was something else entirely. Something dangerous. I told you never to find me, Luca, Marco said, his voice dropping to a register I'd never heard. Pure authority. Pure power. Who are you? I whispered. Marco turned to me, anguish written across his face. My full name is Marco Dante Valentino. I'm the head of the Valentino family. The most powerful crime organization on the East Coast. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's insane. You're homeless. I was hiding, Emma. 6 months ago, there was an attempt on my life by a rival family. They killed my best friend, Antonio, thinking it was me. I decided to disappear, to figure out who betrayed us from the inside. Being homeless, no one looks at the homeless. I could be invisible while I investigated. And you just happened to be outside my 7-Eleven? No. His voice cracked. I followed you there, Emma. I'd been watching you for 3 days. My blood ran cold. Watching me. Your ex-boyfriend, Trevor? His family has been laundering money for the Russo family. I was investigating the connection. You were a person of interest. So this was all. I couldn't breathe. You used me? At first, yes. Marco stepped toward me and his men tensed. But then you proposed to me. And something shifted. You looked at me, this dirty, broken man, and offered me kindness. No one had done that in years. I said yes because I was curious. But I stayed because... Because what? Because I fell in love with you, Emma. His eyes were wet. You reminded me that I'm more than what I've become. That underneath the violence and the power, I'm still just Marco. The man who loves cooking. Who reads in the rain. Who wants a simple life with someone who sees him. How touching, a voice drawled from the doorway. A man I recognized from my parents' social circles stepped in. Richard Russo. Trevor's uncle. He had a gun pointed at my head. You know, Marco, when we heard you were hiding, we never thought you'd be stupid enough to fall in love. Love makes you weak. Richard smiled coldly. Trevor kept tabs on his ex. Imagine my surprise when he mentioned she married some nobody. I had to investigate. Let her go, Richard, Marco said, his voice deadly calm. This is between our families. Oh, but she's part of your family now, isn't she? Mrs. Valentino. Richard pressed the gun to my temple. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to transfer control of your territories to me, or I paint these walls with your wife's. He never finished the sentence. Marco moved faster than I could track. One moment he was across the room, the next his hand was breaking Richard's wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. Marco caught it mid-fall, disassembled it in 2 seconds, and used a piece to strike a pressure point on Richard's neck. The man crumpled. That's for threatening my wife, Marco said quietly. Then chaos erupted. More Russo soldiers poured in through my windows. Marco's men engaged them, and my apartment became a war zone. Emma, get down. Marco shouted, pushing me behind the kitchen counter. I watched in shock as my gentle husband became a force of nature. He moved like liquid violence, disarming and disabling attackers with brutal efficiency. At one point, he actually used my soup ladle to disarm a knife-wielding attacker, then knocked him out with my cast-iron skillet. Sorry about the cookware, he called to me mid-fight. I was either in shock or love. Possibly both. When the dust settled, Marco's men had subdued all the Russo soldiers. My apartment looked like a disaster zone. Chairman Meow was somehow sleeping peacefully on the couch, completely unbothered. Marco rushed to me, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Emma, talk to me. I'm fine, I said faintly. You killed those men with kitchen utensils. Actually, they're all alive. Unconscious, but alive. I don't kill unless absolutely necessary anymore. Pick up my face. Emma, I understand if you want to run. If you want to divorce me for real now. This life, my life, it's dangerous. It's violent. You didn't sign up for this. I looked at this man. This complicated, beautiful, lethal man who made me coffee every morning and left me love notes and just fought off a dozen armed men to protect me. Marco Dante Valentino, I said slowly. Are you currently involved in anything illegal? I'm transitioning the family businesses to legitimate operations. It's why the Russos attacked. They don't want to lose their criminal partnerships with us. But I promise you, Emma, I'm going clean. For you. Do you still want to cook for me? He blinked. What? The deal was one Italian meal. That one was interrupted. You owe me another. A smile broke across his face like sunrise. You're not leaving? Marco, you're either the best thing that ever happened to me or I have Stockholm Syndrome. Either way, I'm not going anywhere. I grabbed his collar and pulled him down to kiss me. But we're moving. This apartment has bullet holes now. He laughed, actually laughed, and kissed me back with 6 months of longing. Capo, Luca interrupted awkwardly. What are your orders? Marco pulled back, his forehead resting against mine. Emma? This is your choice too. Do I go back? I thought about my old life. My controlling parents. My fake friends. The gilded cage of expectations. Then I looked at Marco. The man who'd lived on the streets to solve a mystery. Who'd marry a stranger for $10,000 but stayed for love. Who was powerful enough to run an empire but gentle enough to fold my laundry. You go back, I said firmly. But I'm coming with you. And we're doing things differently. Legitimate businesses only. Use that power to actually help people for once. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a penthouse overlooking the city. It's a far cry from my old apartment, but Marco insisted on something with proper security and a kitchen bigger than a closet. The Valentino family is now mostly legitimate. Real estate development, restaurants, import, export. Marco still has enemies, but he also has me. And together, we're building something better. My parents reached out last month. Apparently, being married to one of the most powerful men on the East Coast makes me interesting again. I told them where they could stick their approval. Tesoro, Marco calls from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. I walk in to find him plating fresh pasta, Chairman Meow weaving between his legs. He's wearing an apron that says, "Kiss the boss," that I bought him as a joke. What's the occasion? I ask. Do I need an occasion to cook for my wife? He pulls me close, kissing my forehead. Besides, it's our anniversary. Marco, our anniversary isn't for 3 more. I stop. Wait, you mean? 1 year since you proposed to me outside a 7-Eleven in the rain. His eyes are soft. Best day of my life. I married a homeless man to spite my parents, I say, wrapping my arms around his neck. And got a mafia boss who makes incredible carbonara. Any regrets? I kiss him, tasting oregano and home. Not a single one. From the living room, Luca calls out, Capo, the Donovan family wants to negotiate. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Marco doesn't even look away from me. Tell them I'm busy. I'm having dinner with my wife. Yes, Capo. As Luca retreats, Marco grins at me. See? I'm getting better at work-life balance. You're still a crime boss. Former crime boss. Now I'm a legitimate businessman who happens to know how to kill someone with a soup spoon. There's a difference. I love you, Marco Valentino. I love you more, Emma Valentino. We eat dinner as the sun sets over the city, 2 people who found each other in the most improbable way. He was a king pretending to be a beggar. I was a prisoner pretending to be free. Together, we became something real. And yes, he still leaves post-it notes on my mirror. Yesterday said, "You're more beautiful than properly emulsified pasta sauce." And that's saying something. I married a mafia boss. Best decision I ever made.